Hi, I wanted to talk to you today about your Miranda rights. Now, you may have heard of Miranda rights. You've seen them on cop shows, you've seen them in movies, you may have heard someone share what they're going through in court. Now, Miranda rights are very important. So, in a very typical case where someone has been arrested and they're facing criminal investigation, it's very typical that the police officer in the case is going to want to question that person. And they're going to want to ask very specific details as to whether or not that person was involved in criminal activity, whether that person is guilty, basically. And it's important to recognize what your rights are in that type of situation. So your Miranda rights basically are also your Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution. What that means is that when you are being questioned, specifically interrogated by law enforcement in a criminal case, you have the right to remain silent. Literally. That means you have the right to not answer any questions whatsoever. I know it may seem intimidating when a police officer is in his or her uniform and everything that you've heard about the criminal process, it's just coming down on you at that moment. But what you need to understand is that an officer, prior to interrogating you, is required by law to advise you of your Miranda rights. And that basically means that you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to a lawyer, and anything that you say can be used against you in a court of law. Now, does every officer actually inform you of your Miranda rights? Not always. And unfortunately, many of my clients who have not been advised of their Miranda rights make statements that hurt them and actually are used against them in court. It appears in the police report, it's used against them in court, and unfortunately, sometimes, many times, it contains a confession. Now, the last thing you want to do is help the prosecution in your criminal case. We can do all kinds of things. We have all types of strategies to help clients defend their criminal cases. The last thing you want to do is to help the police strengthen their case against you and admit to the crime, admit to any wrongdoing, and to confess. So if there's one thing you remember, and to share this with anyone that you want to, because it's a basic constitutional right. You have the right to remain silent. You have no obligation to make any statements about any of the case against you, and you don't have to speak to the police. You don't have to cooperate and tell them what they need to know. You have the right to remain silent.